I always knew my older sister Amara had a flair for the dramatic, but I never imagined her theatrics would turn into humiliation, especially on the most important day of her life. For years, Amara treated me like the younger, less successful sibling. She had money, connections, beauty, and according to her status, I, on the other hand, had a quiet personality, a habit of staying in the background, and a job that outwardly seemed ordinary. Everyone believed I was working at a hotel. What they didn't know was that I owned it. 3 years earlier, a chain investor I worked for suddenly backed out of a luxury project, and due to a contract loophole, I unexpectedly ended up with majority ownership. My career had been humble enough that I kept the news private. I preferred peace over praise. And besides, my family never asked. They had already made their assumptions about who I was and who I would always be as Amara planned her grand wedding. She didn't ask me to help, involve me in decisions, or even treat me like family. Instead, she booked the most expensive venue, the hotel she didn't realize was mine. Through her wedding planner, she sent me a text one afternoon. They're short on staff for the event. Since you work there, can't you just help on the day? It fits what you do anyway. She didn't ask. She assigned she didn't respect. She assumed. Still, I agreed. Not because I wanted to serve people who looked down on me, but because I wanted to keep the peace and to see how far. Amara would go. The day of her wedding arrived with chandeliers shining like crystal, constellations and violins humming under the golden archways of the ballroom. Guests in designer suits arrived in droves, clicking their heels across marble floors I personally approved during construction. Staff members whispered respectfully when I walked by. They all knew who really ran this place, but I put a finger to my lips, reminding them, not today. Today, I am invisible by choice. When Amara arrived in her diamond-embroidered gown, her first words weren't hello, or you look nice, but loud enough for everyone to hear finally. Someone useful. Can you get me water? And don't stand around. The staff shouldn't be seen in the photos. Guests turned, surprised. Some winced. Some smirked. My mother sighed, pretending not to know me. My father shrugged, as if accepting that his younger daughter was, once again, just ordinary. Throughout the afternoon, Amara used me like a prop. She snapped her fingers, waved her hands, issued commands as though she were the queen and I was her servant. Move that chair. Bring the gift baskets. Tell the photographer to hurry. At one point, a guest asked, do they treat all employees like that here? I smiled politely and said, only the ones they don't understand. He didn't know how literal that was. As the ceremony began, I stayed near the back, observing everything I created, built, and managed. It wasn't pride that kept me watching. It was the strange, floating feeling of realizing how years of silence had allowed people to write their own stories about me. But the real turning point came during the photo session. The photographer asked, let's get the siblings together. I stepped forward. Amara raised her hand. Oh no, not her. She's staff. Why is she even standing here? Someone keep her out of the family pictures? Every guest heard it. The ballroom choked with silence. I felt the sting, but I also felt something else, the unraveling of my patience. It wasn't anger. It was revelation in that moment. I decided something. This humiliation would be the last gift I ever accepted quietly. I walked away not in defeat, but in preparation. The wedding planner rushed after me, apologizing profusely. We didn't know she'd speak like that. You're you. I nodded gently. Don't worry. Let today finish. Tomorrow, everything will change. Because tomorrow, the invoices, contracts, and ownership papers would arrive at my sister's new home alongside a letter written by me. But before tomorrow came the wedding speech. A speech that would change everything. Reception glittered with luxury, champagne fountains, roses flowing from sculpted vases, and soft music echoing through the grand hall. Everything looked perfect except for my sister's attitude and the truth she was about to face. I stood quietly at the back while the groom's family spoke. Laughter filled the room. Smiles sparkled like diamonds. Then the host announced, "And now, a few words from the bride's family." My father spoke first, praising Amara's determination and confidence. My mother followed, commenting on her beauty and grace. Then the host said, "And now, the bride's sister." Gasps whispered through the crowd. Amara froze, eyes wide. She hadn't invited me to speak. She hadn't even considered I'd be part of her day. I walked to the stage slowly, not with nerves, but with the steady calm of someone who finally understands her own worth. The microphone felt cold, but my voice came out warm, clear, and unwavering. "I wasn't sure I should speak today," I began. "After all, according to my sister, I'm just staff." The guests shifted. Some looked embarrassed. Others leaned in, sensing something was coming. But since I was asked by the hotel management, actually to ensure every part of today runs smoothly, I thought it would be fair to share a few words. Amara blinked rapidly. "Confused, you see?" I continued. "I've stayed silent for a long time. Not because I lacked a voice, but because I was building something quietly, something meaningful. I've always admired my sister's confidence. Truly. But confidence without kindness becomes ego. And today? Well, today was a reminder." The room tensed. Amara whispered sharply, "Get off the stage." I raised a hand gently. "Just a moment." I looked at the guests. I was treated today as if I have no place here. No value, no identity beyond a job title. But the funny thing is, that job title is a lot more than anyone realized. I pulled a small folder from my pocket and placed it on the podium. "I'd like to formally welcome everyone to my hotel." Gasps erupted. "Yes," I said softly. "I am not just staff. I am the owner of this entire establishment." Wedding planner covered her mouth. The grooms. Parents sat up straight. My mother's jaw fell. Open, my father looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 seconds. As for Amara, her face, drained of color faster than a candle losing its flame, I allowed myself to stay silent because I didn't need recognition, I continued. But today made one thing clear. Silence can be mistaken for weakness by those who do not know your power. I turned toward my sister, who was trembling. "Amara, I truly wish you a happy marriage. But I hope you learned something today. Respect should not be selective. Not for status, not for titles, not even for family roles. Respect should be given because we are all human." I stepped back, letting the room absorb every word. The applause that followed wasn't explosive, it was steady, strong, almost protective. People clapped, not because I owned the hotel, but because I finally stood up, not aggressively, not dramatically, but with dignity. After the speech, I walked off stage. The staff stood waiting for me not as employees, but as loyal allies. One whispered, "We've been wanting you to say something like that for years," another said. "You handled it with class." I simply nodded. Amara approached me later, her voice unsteady. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. I looked at her gently. "Because you never asked. You only assumed." She swallowed hard. "Are you mad at me?" "No," I said honestly. "Just done being invisible." We didn't hug. We didn't argue. We simply stood in the tension between who we were and who we could still become. As I walked out of the hotel, I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, not because I was silent, but because I finally spoke,